Alright, buckle up, buttercups, because we're about to dive headfirst into a courtroom drama so juicy, it makes a soap opera look like a C-SPAN broadcast on paint drying. Viewer discretion? Honey, if you're clutching your pearls now, they're gonna be dust by the time we're done. This ain't your grandma's tea party. This is the Sean Diddy Combs trial, and things are about to get wild. Disclaimer before the disaster, the legal fine print, and our wink-wink nudge-nudge. Now, before we begin this roller coaster of alleged revelations and courtroom theatrics, a little housekeeping. The following is for educational and entertainment purposes only. Yeah, educational like watching a car crash in slow motion teaches you about physics. And entertainment because, let's be honest, who doesn't love a bit of celebrity drama when the stakes are this high? This is the verbatim federal courtroom testimony of the Sean Diddy Combs trial, as reported by the intrepid folks at Inner City Press. We're just adding a little flavor. Think of us as your sassy best friend recapping the craziest episode of reality TV you've ever seen. But, with potential jail time involved. Day 3. The media frenzy was just an appetizer. Day 3 of Sean Diddy Combs' federal trial. The air in the courtroom was already thick enough to spread on toast. Media vultures were circling, notebooks poised, cameras, if they were allowed, which they weren't, hence the delightful courtroom sketches, practically quivering with anticipation. This wasn't just a trial. It was the Super Bowl of celebrity scandals, and everyone was expecting a touchdown of pure, unadulterated chaos. But, oh sweet child, no one, and I mean no one, could have predicted the Hail Mary pass the prosecution was about to throw. The media frenzy? That was just the pregame show. The main event was about to begin, and it was going to be an absolute mind-melter. The bombshell. A voice from beyond the purple rain. In a move so stunning, it probably registered on the Richter scale, the prosecution announced they had new evidence. Not just any evidence, mind you. This wasn't some dusty document or a grainy photo. Oh no, this was an audio recording. A never-before-heard audio recording. The courtroom, already buzzing like a hive of caffeinated bees, fell into a silence so profound you could hear a pin drop, and then hear that pin get a lawyer because it was probably implicated in something. Whose voice was on this mystery tape, you ask? Whose spectral tones were about to haunt the hallowed halls of justice? None other than the Purple One himself. Prince. Yes, that Prince. The enigmatic, aura-seeing, pancake-loving, guitar-shredding legend. And this recording, it was made just weeks before his untimely, tragic death. The collective gasp in the courtroom could have powered a small wind turbine. Prince? Talking about Diddy? From beyond the grave? This was a plot twist even M. Night Shyamalan would call a bit much. Echoes from the afterlife. Prince speaks, Diddy freaks. As the audio began to play, the voice of the late music legend, Prince Rogers Nelson, echoed through the courtroom. It wasn't the flamboyant, stage-commanding Prince the world knew. This was different. It was calm, measured, almost unnervingly serene, yet tinged with an undeniable undercurrent of something. Foreboding, resignation, a deep, soul-weary knowledge of things best left unsaid? It was, in a word, haunting. And what did this spectral voice reveal? Oh, just a few light, breezy topics like naming names. Prince, with the quiet authority of a man who'd seen it all, began to list individuals. The kind of names that make publicists sweat and lawyers reach for their emergency antacid stash. Describing private parties. He painted a picture of Diddy's infamous gatherings, not as the glamorous, star-studded affairs seen in magazines, but as something else. Something darker, more complex, with doors that, once closed, hid a multitude of alleged sins. He spoke of what he claimed to have witnessed behind Diddy's meticulously curated facade. The implication hung heavy in the air. These weren't just parties. They were potential crime scenes disguised with champagne and celebrity, detailing what he claimed to have witnessed. The specifics were redacted in some reports, but the gist was clear. Prince was laying out a pattern, a system, an operation that went far beyond music production. The entire room, from the judge on the bench to the sketch artist in the corner, froze. Reporters scribbled furiously, their pens practically smoking. Lawyers on both sides leaned in, some pale, others with a predatory glint in their eyes. You could feel the tectonic plates of the entertainment industry shifting. Diddy's meltdown, the carefully built persona crumbles. But it wasn't just the content of Prince's posthumous testimony that changed the game. It was Diddy's reaction. Sean Combs, the man who had built an empire on an image of unshakable cool, of being the ultimate mogul, the smooth operator who was always 10 steps ahead. Well, let's just say his carefully built persona didn't just crack. It shattered into a million tiny, incriminating pieces right there in front of the jurors. As Prince's calm, haunting voice detailed these alleged traps, Diddy began to unravel the physical telltale signs. His eyes, usually shielded by designer sunglasses or narrowed in a look of calculated indifference, darted around the room. A muscle in his jaw twitched, a tiny, frantic drummer heralding the storm to come. He stopped whispering to his lawyers, his usual courtroom confidants. Instead, he leaned forward, shoulders hunched, a posture of a man bracing for impact. His face, usually a mask of confident composure, grew pale, almost ashen. Court reporters noted he barely blinked for nearly a minute, his gaze fixed, unseeing. The outburst. Then, as Prince's voice continued, detailing the alleged mechanisms of control, Diddy snapped. "That's a lie!" he roared, bolting upright from his chair with a suddenness that startled even the stoic bailiffs. His voice, usually a smooth baritone, was raw, ragged, laced with a panic that was impossible to miss. He wasn't even there. That never happened. The courtroom erupted. Security personnel rushed forward, ready to restrain him. His lawyers, looking like they'd just seen their multi-million-dollar defense strategy go up in flames, tried to pull him back into his seat, one even hissing, "Sit down." The judge lays down the law and the gavel. The judge, a figure of stern authority who had clearly seen his share of courtroom circuses, was not amused. The gavel slammed down, not once, not twice, but repeatedly, a thunderous punctuation mark to Diddy's outburst. "Mr. Combs!" The judge's voice cut through the chaos, sharp and cold. "Control yourself, or I will hold you in contempt of this court." The threat hung in the air, heavy and immediate. Diddy, visibly shaking, sank back into his chair, but the damage was done. His pristine image, the billionaire mogul, the unbothered icon, was gone. In its place sat a man visibly panicked, cornered, and crumbling in front of the very jury that held his fate in their hands. The jury's reaction, from skeptical to stunned. And the jury, oh the jury, they weren't just processing testimony anymore. They were feeling it. Courtroom sketches captured their expressions. Wide eyes, dropped jaws, hands covering mouths. One juror was seen wiping tears from her eyes as the audio ended. Another clasped his hands together in a way that looked more like prayer than composure. A court sketch artist later told reporters she had to erase and redraw Diddy's face 3 times because his expression changed so violently during the outburst. Psychologists call it anchor bias. When someone experiences a pivotal moment of impact, it becomes the lens through which they view everything else. From this point on, every piece of defense testimony, every denial, every carefully crafted explanation would be seen through the filter of Prince's chilling words and Diddy's explosive reaction. The legal chess game, a calculated risk by the prosecution. This wasn't a rumor. It wasn't social media chatter. This was sworn evidence, presented in a federal courtroom. And from that moment forward, the entire tone of the trial shifted, irrevocably. Diddy's legal team, naturally, had immediately objected when the prosecution announced the audio. They cried, "Sandbagging," claiming they hadn't been warned about this new, explosive exhibit. The courtroom murmured, the tension palpable. Diddy's lead attorney stood, insisting the evidence be excluded, accusing the prosecution of a theatrical, unfair tactic. But the judge, after reviewing the disclosure paperwork, was having none of it. The prosecution had, it turned out, submitted the evidence properly, legally, following all procedures. The judge's ruling came down with a thud that resonated more than the gavel. The evidence may be played. That's when the prosecutor, with a poker face that would make a Vegas professional jealous, delivered the line that hit like a bolt of lightning. You are about to hear the final private recording made by Prince Rogers Nelson. Court insiders later confirmed what many suspected. The prosecution had timed this tape deliberately. After days of slow build-up, small testimonies, and methodical cross-examinations, they chose this moment, day 3, because they believed it would be when Diddy's guard was finally down. And it worked. They showed the jury everything they needed to see. Rage, guilt, and a profound loss of control, all without anyone cross-examining Diddy himself. Prince's chilling confession. More than just music. The voice that echoed through the courtroom wasn't the confident, flamboyant Prince the world knew. It was quiet, low, almost uneasy. "I'm making this recording," Prince began, his tone sending chills down the spines of everyone listening. "Because I don't know who I can trust anymore. This wasn't a performance. It was a confession." In the recording, Prince said he'd attended private parties hosted by Diddy at properties in Miami, the Hamptons, and Los Angeles. He described, in unsettling detail, young artists being separated from their handlers, individuals being encouraged or pressured to drink and take pills, private rooms with locked doors, cameras hidden in fixtures, even chandeliers, implying surveillance and potential blackmail. No security personnel, Diddy's own, that is, allowed inside these specific zones. This matched, almost word for word, the patterns Cassie Ventura had described during her first 2 days on the stand. Prince wasn't vague. He named names. He mentioned specific dates, including a December 2015 party in Beverly Hills. He described behavior that mirrored earlier witness testimony with an eerie precision. "What I've seen," Prince's voice continued, measured and mournful. "It's not something you can just forget. They make it seem glamorous, but I've watched it ruin people." He referenced parties hosted at Diddy's private residences. Again, not just vague recollections, but exact details. Layouts of rooms, names of guests, even the color of the furniture in certain lounges. It all lined up with earlier testimonies from Cassie Ventura and 2 other unnamed witnesses. The traps and the untouchables. A system of control? "These aren't just parties," Prince stated flatly. "They're traps." The silence in the courtroom was so complete, you could hear Prince breathing between words. In the back row, a woman visibly cried. In the front row, a reporter dropped her pen. Most chilling, however, were Prince's references to NDAs, non-disclosure agreements, and hush payments. "I've seen the contracts," Prince said in the recording. "I've seen the money change hands. 2 million here, 1.5 million there. And I've seen what happens to the people who try to leave. They disappear. Not physically, but musically, socially. Gone." He explained that he had warned Diddy about what he saw, that he'd approached him during an after-party in 2016 and told him the manipulation of young artists and guests had to stop. Prince claimed Diddy laughed and told him, "You might be Prince, but you're not untouchable." That line hit the courtroom like a gunshot. Then Prince dropped another bomb, referring directly to Diddy. "I warned him at the Grammy after-party. I told him flat out, this is going to catch up to you. He told me, you might be Prince, but I own this game and people like you don't change it. They get erased." That line reverberated through the room like thunder. A whistleblower's blueprint, beyond the grave. The implications were staggering. This wasn't just about power, it was about fear. "Fear keeps everyone quiet," Prince's voice intoned. He detailed a moment at one of Diddy's events where he believed a guest was being secretly recorded. "I saw cameras in the chandelier," Prince said. "I mentioned it to a producer who shrugged and said, that's just how it is." The implication: blackmail, surveillance, control not just through money, but through secrets. It matched stories that had surfaced years ago. Rumors of footage Diddy kept for leverage. None of it ever confirmed. Until now. Prince didn't speculate, he documented. "I've got files," he said. "Hard drives, tapes, photographs, all dated, all organized. I gave copies to 3 people. If anything happens to me, check with them." This was no longer just a recording. This was a whistleblower's blueprint. And it explained why Diddy had lost control earlier in the day. He likely knew what else might be out there. He likely recognized details that only someone inside his inner circle could have known. The precision of the tape, its alignment with the prosecution's existing timeline, was too perfect to ignore. The final, fateful words. A legacy of protection? As the recording neared its conclusion, Prince said something that may haunt this trial forever. I've spent my life trying to protect my music, but now I realize it's the people who needed protection, and no one was doing it. Not really. Not when it mattered. The very last thing Prince said in the recording, right before it clicked off, was this: "If anything happens to me, make sure this gets to the right people. This isn't just about protecting myself. It's about protecting the ones who never got to speak." No music followed. No signature falsetto. Just silence. When the audio cut, it was like the air had been vacuumed from the room. Nobody clapped. Nobody whispered. Even the gavel didn't sound for several seconds. The judge looked down at his notes, glanced toward the jury, and took a long breath before resuming. The aftermath. A trial transformed, an industry on edge. Immediately after court was adjourned for the day, Diddy's team moved fast. They filed an emergency motion to suppress the Prince recording, claiming its origin couldn't be independently verified, that the witness was deceased and couldn't be cross-examined, and that the tape was prejudicial in nature. But they knew it was too late. The jury had heard it, and worse, they'd seen Diddy break. Legal analysts outside the courtroom were already reacting. "You don't recover from something like that," said one. The jury just saw the defendant lose control while hearing the voice of one of the most respected artists of all time. Back inside the courtroom, reporters noted that Diddy barely spoke after the tape finished. He leaned forward on the defense table, elbows digging into the wood, staring at the floor. His lawyer tried to speak to him. He nodded but didn't respond. He looked smaller, fragile, like the world had finally caught up with him. But perhaps the most damning moment came not from the courtroom, but from the jury box. As the judge dismissed the jury for the evening, 3 jurors lingered, glancing back at Diddy. One shook their head slowly. Another appeared visibly disturbed. You don't need a transcript to understand what was happening in their minds. They had just witnessed something that would stay with them forever. Prince had done more than damage Diddy's defense. He'd altered the trajectory of the entire trial. And the scariest part for Diddy? Prince said he'd left more behind. As the courtroom remained silent after the recording's final moment, the full weight of Prince's message settled like a fog over everyone present. It wasn't just what he had said. It was how he said it, measured, mournful, intentional. His voice was calm, but his words carried the weight of fear, frustration, and finality. What's clear is that this trial is no longer just about Cassie Ventura's lawsuit. It's no longer just about freak-offs, NDAs, and past abuse. It has become a referendum on the entire culture Diddy helped build. And thanks to Prince, that culture now has a voice of resistance. Investigators are now said to be requesting additional subpoenas related to Prince's estate, trying to locate hard drives, tapes, and written notes he may have left behind. If authenticated, these materials could open up new cases, add new charges, or even implicate other powerful figures who were once thought untouchable. Meanwhile, Diddy's legal team is in damage control mode. They've filed motions to exclude the Prince tape, claiming it creates emotional prejudice. But the judge has already ruled it admissible. And even if it's formally excluded later, the damage is already done. The public has heard it. The jury has heard it. Diddy heard it and broke down. Now, as we head into the next phase of the trial, everyone is asking the same question. What else is hiding in Prince's vault? And more importantly, who will it expose next? Because if day 3 was the moment the case cracked open, then what comes next might be the moment the entire industry begins to fall. Stay tuned, folks. The show is far from over.